Hey guys, and welcome back to More English with Dry. Today we are taking a look at the AQA Love and Relationships anthology poem Before You Were Mine by Carol Ann Duffy. The poem begins, I'm 10 years away from the corner you laugh on with your pals, Maggie McGeaney and Jean Duff. Here, the speaker is looking at a photograph of her mother taken from before she was born. Now, the important thing to remember is there are kind of three distinct time periods in this poem, which often people find a bit confusing. There is the present, i.e., the present tense that the speaker is talking in at the start. There is the distant past, the time period when her mother, whom the poem is about, was herself a young woman, perhaps a teenager or somebody in their early 20s, and then a kind of short term past after the mother had given birth to the speaker, but before the present day. So she immediately goes back to this distant past when her mother was a young woman. The three of you bend from the waist, holding each other or your knees, and shriek at the pavement. Your polka dot dress blows round your legs, Marilyn. The imagery here is designed to create a sense that the mother was a very carefree young woman. She was liked and popular, as we can tell from the fact she has friends. And the thing that the speaker notices instantly about looking at this picture is that they're laughing. She infers from this that they seem to not have a worry in the world, and actually, they're very, very content young people. There is a comparison to Marilyn Monroe that is made in the last word of the stanza. Now, this gives us our first sense of the kind of reverence and respect that the speaker feels towards her mother. She looks up to her and believes that she was as beautiful as Marilyn Monroe was. Now, given that this woman was considered to be the most beautiful in the world for quite a long time, and is also often thought of as one of the absolute icons of the 20th century, this is the highest praise imaginable. Furthermore, though, Marilyn Monroe was a film star, and therefore the fact that she is comparing her to her suggests she believes that she had the whole world at her feet when she was this age. It shows that before she was born, she imagines that her mother had the freedom and opportunity to do literally anything she wanted in the world, just like Marilyn Monroe. Therefore, there is the slight sense of a hint of sadness or regret being introduced in this poem, but generally the tone is very much one of loving affection. The reason that the comparison to Marilyn Monroe is also made is because of the stance that her mother is doing, this kind of bent one where holding of the knees. If you type in Marilyn Monroe into Google or anything like that, you'll find the image that it's referring to. It's one of the most looked at photographs of the 20th century. So carrying on, I'm not here yet. Now, this first affirmation reminds us that this was a past, that in this time period of the photograph being taken, the speaker wasn't born and the mother was not a mother. This suggests to us that there were no thoughts of motherhood and therefore familial responsibility, and that makes the woman totally uninhibited and unburdened by anything. She thinks of this as a time when the only person whose needs she had to worry about were her own. The thought of me doesn't occur. Now, that shows that she's not even got having a baby or a family on her mind. She simply wants to have fun. And this is where we find that she went to ballrooms with the thousand eyes the fizzy movie Tomorrow is the Right Walk Home would bring. So she starts to envision her mother going out dancing, as many would in the 1940s. The thousand eyes that she imagines is a kind of hyperbolic exaggeration of how many people would look at her whenever she entered the room, and it further reinforces how beautiful she believed that she was. This fizzy movie Tomorrow is almost a sound image, with fizzy having a sort of excited quality to the word. The movie Tomorrow further reinforces Marilyn Monroe, but it also kind of further reinforces the speaker's belief that her mother could have done whatever she wanted. The Right Walk Home introduces an element of romance, the idea that she would be looking for a man to go home with, but also the idea that whatever would happen, the next day was totally, totally up to her. Anything was possible. I knew you would dance like that, she comments knowingly. We get the sense that the speaker is perhaps older in the present day than her mother was in this photograph. Before you are mine, your ma stands at the close. We are hiding for the late one. You reckon it's worth it. Now, close is a Scottish term meaning a sort of cul-de-sac. It would be like the street entrance where many people would live. Obviously, Carol Ann Duffy is Scottish and grew up in Scotland. But also, she imagines her mother's mother, so her grandmother, giving her a hiding for being late. Now, that means telling her off, presumably for not coming home past curfew. Now, this makes us think that the young woman is unmarried at this, that the mother is unmarried at this point, perhaps even a teenager for still having to be home at a certain time. And there's a kind of tender family kind of lineality that's going through this comment. The idea that her grandmother told her off for being late, maybe in the same way that she remembers herself being told off by the mother who is the object of the poem. You reckon it's worth it. This kind of points to this kind of teenage mischievousness that would very much make people think that staying out all night is actually worth being told off for because of how fun it is. It shows the reckless abandon this mother has and the sense that everything is going to be okay. The decade ahead of my loud possessive yell was the best one, eh? The rhetorical question in this first line has a very loving tone. There's quite a colloquial at the end of it, which shows a bond between mother and daughter. The reference to a possessive yell connotes that after she was born, the mother became not in charge of her own life anymore, almost as though the baby owned her rather than the other way around. She was totally occupied with what the speaker needed as an infant, not what she wanted to do as an individual. I remember my hands in those high-heeled red shoes, relics. Now, this is another quite sort of lovely family moment. This endears the speaker to the reader because it makes everyone who's reading this poem and remembers dressing up in one of their parents' clothes identify with what she's saying. Interestingly, she is playing in these red shoes, the high-heeled ones, which would have been her mother's dancing shoes. The intimate description is then punctuated by calling them a relic. Now, this word evokes the sense that her mother cannot do the things she once loved anymore. The word implies that an object was once much loved, however, a very long time ago. And this makes the reader kind of sadly realize that the mother may miss these things that she can no longer do. And now your ghost clatters towards me over George Square. The sense of a long gone past that will never return is reinforced here, as she refers to her mother as a young woman wearing the shoes as a ghost. And then underneath, she sees her clear as scent under the tree. Now, this simile is oxymoronic and reminds the reader that actually she is imagining a lot of these things. These are not facts, because of course, how can she remember them there before she was born? She's romanticizing her mother, almost dreaming of the glamorous life she believes that she once had. The final stanza begins with cha-cha-cha. You teach me the steps on the way home from Mass. So this time period is sort of the middle one. This is this kind of more recent past after the speaker was born, but before the present day, when the mother was maybe quite a young mother. The inclusion of Mass suggests the Catholic religious upbringing that the speaker had, and this is obviously exactly what Carol Ann Duffy did actually have. It suggests the values her mother tried to impart to her daughter and also the level of seriousness that she put into parenting. It's quite a stark contrast to the carefree girl the speaker described in the opening stanzas. Presumably a mother waking up early to take a child to Mass on a Sunday wouldn't be able to stay all night dancing. However, she teaches her dance steps on the way home, and this reminds us that the mother was a fun-loving woman at heart, particularly perhaps that she is someone who enjoys dancing and misses this part of her life. The speaker describes how she is stamping stars from the wrong pavement. This is another image that implies a bit of regret. It's a subtle way of doing it by calling the pavement wrong, and this is perhaps suggesting that her birth in a lot of ways ruined part of her mother's life. Most importantly, it ruined the endless possibilities that she had. It might suggest from wrong pavement that actually she believes her mother was meant to follow a different path, that she might have been destined for bigger and better things than simply being a parent. Even then, I wanted the bold winking girl in Portobello, somewhere in Scotland before I was born. We further hear this sense of perhaps loss or regret. the speaker suggesting that she would rather that this woman had gone on to become all that she could be rather than maybe being a mother, because she respects her and looks up to her so much. That glamorous love lasts where you sparkle and waltz and laugh before you were mine. This final line and a half contains assonance, which is a repeated, elongated vowel sound. You can see it in the words glamorous, sparkle, waltz, and laugh. What it does is it slows the pace of the language and the rhythm of how the line is read. And what this does is it creates an almost dreamy effect. It reinforces that much of this poem is an imagined memory and also is almost like a song fading out into nothing. Perhaps this is a bit like the memories. They seem very, very real, but actually they're fuzzy around the edges. They're things that the speaker believes to be true, but is actually not sure of. It may also be it's quite a satisfying ending or a happy one, and shows actually the level of love and respect the speaker feels. So we've got our 5-step summary a little differently this time. Firstly, the speaker is looking at an old photograph of her mother and imagining what her life was like before she was born, when her mother was young and carefree. 2, she compares her mother to Marilyn Monroe, showing her belief that her mother was a beautiful young woman with endless opportunities. It shows how much she loves and idolizes her. 3rd, she pieces together what her mother's life would have been like, imagining the dances she would go to and how all eyes would turn to her when she entered. She gets caught up in the sense of the romance of this life. 4, she imagines how much her mother's life would have changed when she was born. She reflects on the fact that she became almost in charge of her mother's life and how she stopped her from doing many of the things she once enjoyed. And finally, she considers what her mother was like when she herself was only an infant, remembering being taken to Mass. The final images are full of love and also a sense of regret over what this woman sacrificed to be a good parent. I hope you found this video helpful. Make sure you like and subscribe and stay tuned for more videos. Goodbye.